Good evening. Tonight is the 29th of August here in Seattle, 2017. And I'm Paul Glumaz with the LaRouche Political Action Committee. And this is being brought to you by General Welfare Presents. Today, I was downtown with three other individuals, and we had a big sign and a whole bunch of big signs on the Russia Gate is a fraud, defend Trump, stop the coup, big signs. And from the time we were there, roughly around 11:30 to 5, we were people were continually coming up and kicking over our signs and getting into confrontations with us. Other people who were more inclined towards us were somewhat fearful. Some of them, but everyone has expressed a profound sense of shock that we even were there, and we were there with these signs. And the shock was so great that people were just so amazed that they were taking videos, and all kinds of people were taking videos and photographs. And we later found out from other people that there was a Twitter storm and Facebook storm over our deployment in downtown Seattle. That was at 3rd and Spring, right across from the Federal Bureau of Investigation building. Now, so that tells you something. And two of the younger people who knocked over signs or got into a little bit of a tussle with us were saying to us that they felt they had a right to do this because they were offended by our putting a fascist, defending a fascist Nazi like Trump. Okay, that they felt they had the right because they were offended. And this is what is going on in the schools. This is what they're being taught. It's called postmodernism, and there is no principles. Principles are for dead white European males. There are no principles. It's your race, it's your sex, it's your ethnicity, and your class, and beyond that, there is no universality. And if you are offended, you have a right, because it is wrong to offend people. It's too wrong to offend other people who might think otherwise. And this kind of mentality is exactly what's been being inculcated in the population. Of course, they might, after spending some time in prison and a few days in the county jail, might have a different opinion after that. But regardless, that is the mentality that you're dealing with in the Antifa and all these other things. So this is just a preface what I'm going to go into now. Okay. Now, strategically, what is happening is you have two different processes going on. One process is in the financial system, which is coming to a huge crisis pretty soon. Greenspan is warning, former Federal Reserve Chairman Greenspan is warning, IMF officials are warning that the debt crisis, the financial derivative crisis, is greater than what it was 10 years ago. And anything could go. Beware of bubbles. There's the internet, there's the real estate bubble, the student loan bubble, the car bubble, the mortgage bubble, corporate bond bubble, you name it. And all the toxic financial instruments are piling up as part of quantitative easing. And at what point does the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank start to unload these things? Because holding these things means that these agencies, the Federal Reserve and the European Union, are themselves bankrupt. Now, in that context, there's no funds for infrastructure. There's no funds. There's no funds for development in the United States. The Federal Reserve Chairman, Janet Yellen, is totally opposed to any kind of infrastructure program. Why? because it takes the funds out of the system and puts it into the physical economy, and it doesn't go back into the system. It goes out to pay for the construction. It goes out to pay for wages. It goes out and it employs more people, and it doesn't come back as bailouts to the financial system. It just keeps going in the real economy. So this stays in the commercial sector. It's not a bailout. Now, the other thing is the healthcare, the Obamacare, and then the earlier Bush privatization of Medicare. These are all designed to give a larger and larger portion of the healthcare dollar to the income stream of the insurance companies, who are owned by the banks, who are leveraging this income stream into greater financial bailouts and speculation. So basically, if you were to implement a single payer, you would cut off all of the funds to the insurance companies, and you would bankrupt the financial system. Similarly, the drug trade. The drug trade is the center for the bigger center for the maintenance of the international financial system. If you were to shut down the drug trade, you would have immediate collapse of all the financial institutions in the West. Now, why am I saying this? Well, because $26 billion was needed to build a more modern flood control system in the Houston area. The existing flood control system is outdated. At the time it was built, it was the most modern there was, but that was in the 1940s. Since then, Houston has grown dramatically. Now, we have a real crisis there, and it's not over yet. It's still growing. And there's an emergency situation. Donald Trump has gone there. But what's he going to do other than emergency measures through Congress and what have you to deal with it? But but that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is going to have to be solved, and we're entering that domain of there is no other option. Okay? There is no other option but what the LaRouche movement has been saying. Glass-Steagall and the credit system. There is no other option. You're going to have to do these things in order to get the credit to be able to begin to fix the problems. And you're going to have to do the credit on a global scale, on a larger scale. You're going to have a kind of an overall plan of how you're going to do all of this. And this is essentially the message that Dr. Hal Cooper gave in New York City at our event, Manhattan event, last Saturday, where he laid out that the key is to bring the One Belt, One Road through a Bering Strait tunnel, down through Alaska, down through Canada, into Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary, then through Saskatchewan, down to Minnesota, Chicago, and then to New York. And that's what is needed to connect the United States by rail to Eurasia. It's what is needed also to begin the process of preparing New York as the terminal of that One Belt, One Road that crosses that connects Eurasia with North America. Now, and then from that standpoint, you have to begin to consider how you're going to immediately keep the crisis of the transportation crisis in New York from reaching a certain threshold, but also what is the long-term solution to it, which is building a whole bunch of tunnels and bridges and what have you. Now, another speaker at this conference laid out that it takes 20 years to build a bridge from concept to completion because of all the hoops that you have to go through. The whole process takes 20 years. It's not as much for construction of a road. It's not as much for construction of a building. But this whole process is also an issue. Now, the Chinese, on the other hand, have gone ahead and begun the feasibility studies for the Transaqua program in Central Africa, which is the largest project in history. It'll it'll deliver 100 billion cubic meters of water a year to north to the Chad, 50 billion of those to revive the Chad, Lake Chad, and begin the process of reversing desertification. There's 2,400 kilometers of canals, and this project is now under feasibility study. Now, in an article in the China People's Daily on the project, it goes into what the project is, and then it goes into how the president of Nigeria in 2005 decided to push it, and then how it goes into the next section goes into the role of the LaRouche movement in initiating the concept a long time ago, and then the current role of the LaRouche movement in bringing the Italian designers into contact with the Lake Chad Basin Commission. And then, so now you have the company, the Chinese company that built the Three Gorges Dam, now doing a feasibility study with the Italian Benefica Spa, who designed the program. And this is the kind of thing that is going on. This is huge. And instead of just saying we're going to do this project, the People's Daily is saying, look, this is a project initiated by LaRouche, the LaRouche movement, Helga and Lyndon LaRouche. They're saying that in this article, that this incredible project the policy was initiated. Now, another project that in the late 70s, early 80s, that the LaRouche movement was promoting, the Kra Canal in the Isthmus of Kra in Thailand, there's now going to be a conference on that. And this is more going to be involving the Japanese. But this is the policy. This is acknowledged to be a policy that was being promoted by the LaRouche movement over 30 years ago. And the person in the LaRouche movement from Thailand who was promoting it there, Tadki Tanamapura, he is the one organizing the conference, which is now going to involve a lot of different agencies in Thailand, and military, the royal family, networks of the royal family, and so forth. So again, this is policies that are now reaching the point where there is no other option. You have to find another way to deal with shipping. You cannot continue to have shipping grow with the Malacca Straits through that area. The Malacca Straits are a real problem, and you need to have something different. And you're reaching a point where there's no other option. The ability for the Malacca Straits to So we're dealing with a situation where you're reaching the point where there is no other option in the United States, especially. So in this context, the question of what Trump is going to do, or how Trump is going to understand what to do and do it, is now coming to an issue. Now we are currently involved in reaching out to the people who organize the campaigns for Trump in various different states. They're not all Republicans, and discussing with them the Glass-Steagall and the credit system and LaRouche's 4 laws and what Trump is going to have to do, because he cannot in any way deliver anything under the existing financial system. It will not allow him to. The Federal Reserve will not allow him to. Wall Street will not allow it. Okay? The radical ecology movement will not allow it. But that's not the worst. The worst is Wall Street. They will not allow him to do anything on infrastructure. So, but the hurricane that hit Texas has essentially brought this question to the fore. They're going to have to deal with the problems that not having created the infrastructure that was required to handle these things is going to have to be dealt with, and it can't be dealt with in just a piecemeal way. It has to be dealt with in a comprehensive way. Now, in this context, you have all these things now going on where people are saying that the generals have taken over the Trump administration. Look what Trump did in Afghanistan. He's going to continue the war. He's saying we're going to go to victory. Isn't that 180 degrees opposite to what he was saying earlier, and so forth and so on? Yet Tillerson, the Secretary of State, is saying that we may not win in Afghanistan, but neither will the Taliban, but we want to bring the Taliban around to a coalition government the with the current government of Afghanistan. Now, a lot of people are talking about the firing or the resignation of Steve Bannon. But what does Steve Bannon do? He gives an interview to the London Economist, which is an enemy publication. This is the British Empire. This is the publication of the City of London, the magazine, The Economist. And what The Economist says is that Bannon said that 100 years from, essentially that 100 years from now, he wants to look back and see that the Confucian mercantilism will have been defeated by Judeo-Christian liberalism. What does he mean by that? He's saying, and what's his beef with Wall Street? Well, it's not just that they're criminal and they're speculating on derivatives, but the fact that they let China in to the WTO, the fact that they let China into the system, is the problem. That they didn't attack China. So what is going on with this guy? Well, he has a belief that the Chinese represent a threat to our liberal values. Well, I didn't know he was a liberal. Well, he might be somewhat liberal in the libertarian sense, but I didn't know he was a liberal, and I never knew that Judeo-Christianity was liberal. I always thought it was not liberal. And what does it mean for mercantilism? What does mercantilism mean? Confucianism, Confucian mercantilism. What's Confucian mercantilism? Well, Confucianism is an idea that you should get everybody together to get together and work together for the common good. What's wrong with that? Well, obviously that's not a good idea because you're bringing Confucianism is ending geopolitics. Now, what we're seeing with China is an unprecedented situation in world history, where a people with a reviving of an ancient cultural perspective, have a worldview which is not geopolitical. It's not about us versus them. It's about integrating everybody into the common good. So that is, you've never, the U.S. had something like that when it was in the earlier times. It had something like that under FDR. It had something like that under Lincoln. But this is China. This is China with 1.4 billion people who are going through a massive industrialization process right now, with the One Belt, One Road going all out all over the world, and they're not adopting a right versus left, communism versus capitalism, conservative versus liberal, monetarism versus not state command economy. They're not doing. They're not part. They don't. You cannot categorize them within that approach. They're outside of the categories, and no one's ever seen anything like this, and it's coming on fast. And they're giving the LaRouche movement credit for a lot of the ideas that they're implementing. Why? Because we helped them to understand these ideas, and they're giving the LaRouche movement the credit in their publications. And we're not the biggest group on the planet. We're not in the media in any kind of positive way. So why are they doing it? Because they have a sense of this is where it came from. Right? It didn't come from China. It came from outside of China. It came from a Western source. So this is very important because it puts our movement on the map to help educate not only the Chinese community in Europe and North America and et cetera, but also to educate, be a bridge to connect these ideas with Western ideas, to connect Confucian ideas with Western ideas. And this is not something that Steve Bannon appears to be happy about. So that's interesting. So what is the world going to look like if Steve Bannon is successful and he does what happens, as he says in the interview? He says we got to screw to One Belt, One Road. Well, there goes your future, because the United States doesn't have a future without the Chinese playing a role in rescuing the United States from the financial and economic collapse that is going. Of course, the American people have to do something too. They have they have to shut down Wall Street and implement Glass-Steagall and the credit system, which is going to have to be what Trump has to do. If he doesn't do that, there's no way the United States can survive. We have a financial collapse coming. There's no way we're going to survive that without those kind of measures. And we also have a situation where people need to get work jobs. They need to have jobs. Now, how is it possible that all these people out there don't understand that? How is it possible that the United States has these liberals who support the wars that have been going on because the wars back up the financial system, and then scream about human rights all over the place when they're causing the death of millions of people? What is going on in their minds that allows them to be the promoters of human rights on behalf of Wall Street and the City of London, to unleash all these military conflicts, to support all these terrorist groups covertly, and pontificate that they represent human rights against China or Russia or against anybody that opposes them? What gives them the that they actually believe that they can actually to your face tell you that, and when you bring it up, it doesn't connect? Why? Because these liberals don't believe in reason. They don't believe in reason. Reason does not exist for them. It's power and it's opinion. And it's my opinion versus your opinion. And the only way we're going to resolve opinions is through force. And I can tell you to your face that I'm a human rights activist and shoot you and hang you right there on the spot, and I'm still a civil rights activist. That's liberalism in its current form, in its current postmodernist form. There is no truth. There is no sense of reason. Reason is something that is not about reality. Reality is not about reason. You can't know reality anyhow through reason, is what they're saying. But they don't say that. It's just this idea that whatever we want is good because we want it, and if we can get enough power to support that perspective, then it is the truth. It is the truth because we say it's the truth, and it's because we said it's the truth. And yes, it's not the truth, but we're going to make it the truth, and it is the truth. And so this is what you're dealing with, and this is completely unprincipled in every which way you can imagine. The Obama people, the Hillary Clinton people, this whole liberalism, this Clapper calling for the end of Trump's nightmare by having him resign, the mobilization of all journalists to call for the impeachment or resignation of Donald Trump. All of this, even though there's no evidence of the Russia thing is completely falling apart. It wasn't a hack; it was a leak. Then the whole thing is falling apart. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter because truth doesn't matter anyhow. So what if we lied about it? We have to end the nightmare of Donald Trump, says James Clapper, the former head of intelligence, calling for the end of for the removal of Trump. So this is what you're dealing with. These people have no principles whatsoever, and they're mobilizing everything they can. The British Empire that's behind them is desperate. They're completely desperate. They're losing it all, and they're doing everything possible to screw everything up, including the Trump administration.